Hello, it's Aeon, and we are going to jump right into the Swole Dinnesty versus LA Mortals. Does look like the game is in progress. And we are going to have the attacking team. Well, first we're going to have the attacking team load in. Alright, now we can begin. So we've got DSP Spanky, a very good name and homage to DSP Stanky. And the defending team is going to have a Roadhog Orisa, which is very good on this point, a Soldier for the high ground, Junkrat for the raw damage, and then we've got Lucio and Ana for the healing. I see a lot of Ana play in these scrims, which is surprising, given that while she was indirectly buffed by Mercy going down in the nerf land, she's still not super excellent, but her nano boost is still very good, and anti-healing remains incredibly potent. On the other side, we do have Reinhardt and a Roadhog. It's a more of a mobile kind of strat. You can't use Halt, but he is going to get an Earth Shatter. Doesn't end up picking anything up off of it, but he does end up on top of a Junkrat. Ditto finds a kill on the Junkrat, and kills are starting to come in for the red team. Whole Hog is going to try and push people off the point, but it will not be enough. Fox is going to spam some grenades, just get whatever damage he can, because his Riptire is coming up. And if they can roll onto the second point, that would be great. 91% not quite up yet, but look at the other team. We've got Orisa and Lucio. We've got an offensive and defensive ultimate, which should have a good chance of stopping any kind of snowball. Here comes the Tire, coming over the high ground, and gets 2 off the bat! And not only did it get 2, but it also took out the potential Orisa drum. This could be potentially huge, and could actually snowball this after all. Fox is putting more damage on the point, making it impossible for anybody to stand on it. But Quab actually gets a triple kill. He sits on one and finishes off 2, 3, 4 members of the attacking team. Roadhog's gonna jump off as Ethan realizes his team's gone. We're gonna have a regroup on the side of the red. Used the Tire, got good value off of it, but wasn't able to cap and not even take a third, which is very unfortunate. But we do have a lot of other ultimates stacking up. We've got Genji getting close to his blade, Earth Shatter. Choi gets an early pick on Latin Guy, which could open up a lot of this point. Looks like Trickzerg is going to try and get some tricky ults. Earth Shatter does not hit, but he is going to go for the blade anyway. Gets 1, gets 2, 3. He's going to get a 4th. With Ethan's help, he does get the 4th. Latin Guy's gonna try his best to visor his way to safety. He does get 2. And while this was looking so heavily favored for the red team, it does look like the blue team is going to somehow survive without losing a single tick. That's gotta hurt, as that tick was probably at 32.999. We are going to have another reset. I did not use Coalescence. Ethan still has Whole Hog, and Box, rather, is getting close to another Tire. So this could be a successful push, especially given that there are no ultimates on the defending side. Trickzerg, again, is going to come through as the Tire does get Lucio. And red team is on the point. With no ultimates to work with, this is going to have to be pure mechanical skill for the blue team. Whole Hog is going to try and push people away, and it does, pushes them into the afterlife, but maybe not fast enough, as the defending team does get the right picks. Ditto gets a good charge, and then jumps off himself. We're still looking at Earth Shatter, and Dragon hasn't used Coalescence. Maybe there hasn't been a good time to use it, but that's not really an ult you should be sitting on. Given how fast Moira gets it, you're losing a lot of value if you don't use that ultimate. On the other hand, DSP Spanky is closing on his own and healing this Diva mech that might actually give it to him. Our team's going to have to find a way to break in through this wall. They've been unsuccessful despite their ultimate advantages. Looks like Ditto's looking for an Earth Shatter, but it might be best to fight a little bit and just try and get ults. But with these picks coming in, this is actually a fight that they want to go ahead and take. DSP Stanky healing. Asmuel. The Tire coming in. But Tricky Zerg's actually going to take down DSP Spanky. Reaper's closing into his own ult. Tricky Zerg might be able to clear the point, but here comes a Visor. But Transcendence does cancel it out. And here comes the Reaper Death Blossom. It gets two. Latin guy's going to have to contest if he wants to hold this point, and he jumps down, but only at 18 health and gets swiftly taken care of. Quab must have done some accidental jump as he did kill himself. And the red team does take it with a minute 22 to spare. Now it's going to be up to the new attacking team to try and get more than a minute after attacking both sides. Otherwise, they will have to defend, and at the very best, to get a tie. I do see a Sombra on the red team. This health pack is the primary reason why. It's a great position. You can look out to the point. You could set up an Orisa here, have a barrier, and contest from here. It's a very good control. And it's a great way to get a quick ultimate, especially if you're going to fight a Zenyatta, some kind of barrier-related character. Now it looks like we're going to get Torbjorn versus the World. Sadly, no amount of right clicks will take down that globe, and Jachi is going to switch over to the Lucio. On the defending side, we are going to get Tricky Zerg on the high ground. And Choi is sticking to the Sombra, which is a very solid strat on Volskaya. Ditto and Ethan are going to play the Roadhog Reinhardt as they did on attack. It's Orisa for barriers is much better, but for an aggressive player like Ditto, it definitely seems to be worth sacrificing the barrier for raw damage. On the other hand, we have Box also on the high ground. It looks like it's going to be a fairly passive hold from here until the enemy team gets to the point, which is going to be incredibly oppressive with Soldier and Junkrat. So we're going to see how this dive team pushes. Looks like Asmuel hits the ceiling. And he sees the target. He might go after that Soldier. He does miss the window. And Sombra appears from behind, farming ults off of these big bodies. 33% already. But Ethan is about to go down. He does survive and gets to the health pack, and that's all he needed. With the health pack that gets back 3 times as fast. That is incredibly useful for Roadhog. Summer's gonna look for these last picks. And using her passive, she can see Moira low health and does get the tag on her. Refresh the hack. And that health pack has been incredibly useful. On attack 2, we are going to see the same team, same strat, except they're going to go around to the other side. They're going to fight from the high ground of their own. They have dive characters, though, so they're going to have to either fight on the point and force the enemy team to contest, or go up and push them off. As well as in a dangerous place, and as he does get hacked, barriers go down, Lucio gets pinned. And it doesn't look like there's a lot that the blue team will be able to do, as that EMP just made it so easy to clean them up. Etiquette gets finished off late. But it does look like the stagger isn't too terrible. DSP Spanky rather, getting damage despite the fact that she already has ultimate and may just be feeding the healer ults for the other team. Asmo, being a good tank for his healers, is going to wait to get healed by Lucio and Moira. But here comes Sombra. DSP Spanky doesn't seem to hear the sound. Asmo is going to land this jump this time, but realizes how much enemy forces are there. He's going to jump up there along with the Diva Bomb, and he's going to push Ditto off. Ditto does survive, and EMP does go out. Visor's on the field as well. And a Riptire to finish everything off. Despite all of the ultimates that they used, which is typically a bad thing, they still have Earth Shatter and Whole Hog, which is incredible. They use their DPS ultimates, but their tank ultimates are just as good. Ooh, and a late pickoff on Manticat is going to put the attacking team at a severe disadvantage. Even though they have a minute, this is not a good idea as Asmo continues to push. Without all 6, it's not a great idea to be pushing on your own. Especially as a character as important as Winston. Winston does decide to jump away, jump back. None of the characters or players on the red team have been able to finish off this Sombra. Earth Shatter does go down. Doesn't end up picking anything up, and does look like some kills are coming in on the blue side. Ditto's doing his best, but he can't quite make it alive as Quab finishes him off. And finally, it does look like they're going to be able to take this first point. It'll be up to them to take the second point as fast as possible, but they only have one ultimate, so it may not be this push. The optimal strategy right now is to go in before they can set up without using any ultimates and see how far you can get the point progress. Because you don't want to use any ultimates that you do have while you charge the rest. Hack does come out, and that is definitely going to be a stop for this team. Visor is going to come through. It's going to finish off the Genji and the Diva. And that will be that push indeed. Seems like DSP Spanky got a late hack. Didn't heal herself, which would have given her more ult, as the cooldown on the orb isn't too long. But we'll let that go. Even after that push, they only got about one more ultimate, which is pretty unfortunate. They just got the Primal Rage. Meanwhile, there are 2 ultimates on the red team, and Reinhardt's getting close to his as well. Diva has infiltrated and is fighting a Hog. Does get knocked out of mech, but I don't know if that's going to hit anyone, and it doesn't, because that's not a great place for a Diva Bomb to be. But she just needed a new mech. But Box is cleaning up the blue while the blue tanks are separated. And with a somersault, that will be the end for Asmuel, who had Primal Rage, by the way. He didn't have to die, but he did wait on using it because he knew his team was dead. One thing the blue team needs to work on right now is playing together. They have a lot of dive characters, but they're not diving the same people. Diva, was up on that platform alone against a Roadhog, which is not a fight Diva's going to win. They need to call out a target, and the Genji, the Winston, the Diva all need to jump on them at the same time, because that's how dive works at its finest. Oh, and Tricky Zerg gets a late pick on DSP Spanky. That's a lot of the healing for the blue team. And they need to get out and reset, which is exactly what they're going to do. And luckily it does seem that they have realized their mistake and have actually stacked up ults for this next fight. They're getting close to Barrier and Diva Bomb, and they have 4 ults ready to go. Now let's see what they decide to dive into. Although Asmuel's looking not great for health. Here comes Dragon Blade right into a Transcendence. Doesn't look like he's going to get anything off of this. And a Tire is going to come through and get 3. That's huge for the red team, as the blue team used 4 of their ults. Meanwhile, I believe the only ult that the red team used were Transcendence and Tire. Another late pick onto Manticat. He seems to be having a lot of trouble drawing back. He gets picked out of position a lot and needs to know when to disengage and when to rejoin his team at spawn. Latin guy switching off of Genji to McCree, foregoing the dive, opting for more of a crowd control hitscan character. Not sure if it'll work out, but they do have a Tracer who's been giving them trouble, so that may fix that aspect. Asmil swapped off to the Reinhardt, decided that he wants to have a barrier battle with the enemy Reinhardt, but he does charge in and get hooked. This is not what you want to do when you have 25 seconds left and the barriers do not come out fast enough. Quab's going to do what she can, but a nano shatter comes through. Quab's going to have a very well-placed ult, though, and it does get one healer, not the value that Quab wanted. And with the rest of her team dead, there's not a lot she can do aside from stall, which she's getting ready to do. But Asmil's getting stuck at the gate. He does pins a Hog, but Hog has so much health that it's not going to be enough to kill, and Ditto will kill him instead. The healer's going to try and come in and stall with a DPS shortly behind. Manticat is able to stall a little bit, but there's no way that these 2 DPS can take out 2 healers and 2 tanks and reinforcements in the form of DPS. And the first game is going to go to the red team. Play the game going to Tricky Zerg. As while the Earth Shatter did not land, this Dragon Blade sure did. Softening up a tank and getting 3 picks of his own. That's the kind of dive that you want to see. So, it does seem that the blue team is the LA Mortals. So, imagine every time I said blue team, and just replace that with an audio of LA Mortals. Although it does look like the red team, Swole, is losing some players. It does seem that they might be substituting players out at the moment. The Ultimate Economy seemed to be in favor of LA Mortals a lot, but they seem to be misusing their ults. They did have a problem of not having enough ults at the same time to begin with, but they did end up being able to do dry runs and get at least 4 ultimates at a time. Never 6, but 4 is sometimes enough, but they still were not able to get out wins as their ultimate usage and other game sense skills, like knowing who to dive, when, and where, were not as good as the Swole Dinnesty. Now we're going to see what map we go to next. More players are coming in for the Swole. And we're going to have a switch on the LA Mortals as well. Now, as you can see here, in the icon meta, we've got players just all over the place. The most uniformity we have is on the LA Mortals with the LA Valiant icon, but 3 players have forgone that icon. Quab is close. He might have tricked you, but that is in fact a Bastion icon with a bird. Not quite the Valiant winged helmet. Manticat and DPS Spanky not quite pulling it in. On the other hand, look at the Swole Dinnesty. They have no. I mean, they have one Dynasty icon. Ethan, who is clearly the most level-headed of the team, has the Swole Dinnesty icon. But we have some traders for the New York Excelsior, Philadelphia Fusion, as well as some Winston and competitive flags. We have Manticat going on a lot of role switches, though, and a lot of team backstabbing. But he does end up... Oh, never mind. I thought he would stay on the LA Valiant, but he has defected to the New York Excelsior instead. And this has been the Icon Meta. It looks like we are going to go to King of the Hill next, particularly Ilios, which is a very fun map. Personally, I would say that Oasis is my favorite because it never gets old watching players get hit by cars in the game. But we are going to go to Ilios, which will be very interesting, mostly given the boop opportunities that King of the Hill often allows players. On the well, we'll probably see Roadhog, Orisa, Pharah, Lucio trying to get as many bodies into the well as possible. We'll also see similar, definitely Lucio on all maps, because Lucio in King of the Hill is typically a must-have. On the Lighthouse, definitely Lucio. I would not run Orisa Hog, given the mobility that is needed to take that point. I would definitely run either Dive or Deathball Reinhardt Zarya. And then the third point, the Ruins. You can basically run whatever you want. But we're going to jump right into this. Here we have the Lighthouse. Thank goodness no Widows can snipe from all the way up there. But here we have very good boop opportunities, or boopertunities. My apologies for the Lucio players. But the fight all starts here, mid, where players can decide to fight in this art gallery, fight here mid, or go straight for the point and defend from there. So it really depends on what kind of compositions and playstyles each team is going to run. At the moment, it does look like we are going to have a Far Mercy on the LA Mortal side. As well as a Lucio, a Winston, and a Diva. Very much a dive composition. Although Manticat has yet to select a character, so it looks like we're going to start as a 5v6. Damage is already running on to Choi on the Zenyatta. Although it does look like they are also running 5v6, as Box has yet to appear as well. Players seem to be jumping off, and it does look like this is going to be a reset game. So it does look like we're going to try and get 6 on both sides. We're going to see what is happening. Something that is not super clear when you are playing Overwatch is that the way to pause a custom game is Control-Shift-Escape, which is pretty counterintuitive. You would imagine it would be a button in the lobby just to pause, but in any case, we are going to jump back into the game on Ilios. with hopefully 6 players on each side. No promises though. And we're gonna go to the lighthouse again, but this time for real. Just kidding. It does look like there are some roster issues, as one of the players seems to be Master, which is a big no-no for the Little League games. Although that is disputed in the chat, so I'm actually not sure what's happening. So I will update you as soon as we figure out the rosters. But until then, I don't have any notes for King of the Hill because they never actually played. But we're gonna go ahead with it. I will keep you posted on the chat as things develop. It does look like we are getting a player on soon. Does look like player Akora is being added to the Swole Dinnesty, which means that soon the match will begin for real. Because as they say, third time's the charm. It does seem that Akora is giving the invite a little bit of time, so we aren't quite ready to start yet. Which brings me to the most important question. I now have enough competitive points for a new golden weapon. Which of course begs the question, what weapon should I get? So far I have Reinhardt, I have Ana, I have Moira, and I have McCree. Personally, I am a tank support flex with a smidge of DPS. So it's always the question of what golden gun will I choose? I could get the Zenyatta, as golden orbs are always very pretty, but I appreciate when golden weapons are large enough that people will always notice. For example, Reinhardt Hammer. You're not going to miss a golden Reinhardt Hammer. Moira's Nails, that's not super visible, but I love Moira. But this is a question that I am going to have to deliberate upon later, as we are finally going on to Ilios for a real match. And this time we're going to start on the ruins. Now, as I said before, as an aside, there are a lot of comps you can run. You can run dive, you can run quad tank, you can run triple tank, you can run death ball. The high ground isn't super important, so you don't have to run dive. Dive is still probably optimal given the meta, but triple tank and death ball Rein Zarya is still very good on this kind of map. We could also see a lot of Widows as Latin Guy and Tricky Zerg seem to be choosing and may stay, as there are a lot of great sniper positions, such as this Acropolis, this hill, or these platforms. And we do have Choi on the Symmetra, surely baiting us into believing. But does look we might get a basketball. And that's going to be a point for the Swole Dinnesty, as they have won the scrims. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Choi's actually going to switch to the Lucio. Or Moira, rather, as we are going to reset again. As it does seem that a player ended up being AFK. No. At some point, I promise, on everyone's behalf, we will have video games for you to watch. But at this point, it does seem that we're going to get through some other problems. Now, it is unsure to me who was AFK, but it does look like we're getting some communication to make sure everything's okay. According to Asmoel, his cat ran away. I'm not sure if that was the AFK player, but if so, what an unfortunate circumstance. And what an acceptable reason to leave your game. Overwatch is great, but cats are more important. There's talk of reporting people in the chat, which this isn't a competitive game, but maybe I can report them for bad teamwork. Maybe I can report them all for one-tricking. Although I can't report them for one-trick if they don't play that game. But hopefully we will get into Ilios for the 4th time fairly soon. 3rd time I thought was the charm, but it seems the 4th one is going to be the magic number. DPS Spanky is asking for a minute break, which we are going to hold him to. So back to the reason I've brought you all here. What golden weapon? Let's look at my hours. Given my hours, I have played Reinhardt, Ana, Mercy, Lucio, Zenyatta in order. I have Reinhardt, Zarya, golden weapons. I don't play a lot of Mercy anymore. It's been a long time since I focused on her as my primary healer. Moira's definitely taking the spotlight. I play a lot of Zenyatta as well.
Now arriving at Ilios.
But it does seem that we are going right in to the well, the one version of Ilios we haven't seen yet. And this is where the players hopefully won't end up, but you know that some of them will. This is definitely a Pharah favored map, as well as Orisa, Hog, and Lucio, as it's much easier to boop someone into a large well than to damage them the traditional way. As far as all these sidewinding routes, most players opt to take either this standard primary path or opt to go for the flanking route into this health pack. Now, looking at the Swole Dinnesty, we do have another Symmetra sending up her baby turrets, but unfortunately it will not last, as it is Choi again making me want to believe. He's going to stick to the Lucio this time with the immobile tanks. That's very important. We're going to go dive otherwise, which is interesting. And we're going to have a Mirror, a Risa Hog. But, importantly, we're going to have a Pharah, who's going to be fairly uncontested against the dive DPS on the side of Swole Dinnesty. It's surprising that LA Mortals is the only team to run Pharah, but Tricky Zerg jumps in and gets that kill. Tricky Zerg is going to contest as well, and Box gets the first pit kill. Oh, but Latin guy is rezzed for free by Mercy. Paint on table does not get punished. As Swole Dinnesty is looking in a good position to cap this, but this fight is still ensuing. That guy is gonna try and get as much damage as he can. His ult is already at almost 60%, but Box gets another hook kill. And that, without any barriers, will decide the first point capture. That guy's still poking, getting damage in where he can. Ultimate goes from 68 to 80 in one rocket. That damage boost is coming in huge. No picks yet, but if you can get a barrier, that might be enough. Meanwhile, Quab has his ultimate. It's going to be hard to shoot through that barrier, but he's going to go around. But with just a barrier and a fortified Orisa, that ult is not going to happen. And Paint on Table is going to get punished for trying to get that ambitious resurrection. Swole Dinnesty is going to get the cleanup. And Gold Dominator seemed to use a little bit of a late Dragon Blade, maybe a celebratory blade, but not the optimal way to hold on to your ultimates. Latin guy is going to come around again. He has his ult, as does Paint on Table and Jachi. They've got two support ultimates to go in. It looks like Latin guy's going to try and drop in on these tanks. Does get Akora. Does get herself as Gold Dominator. Reflects the damage. And another. But Jachi actually survives. And a drum comes in on Asmoel's side, but so does Swole Dinnesty's. And with a point progress in favor of Swole Dinnesty, they definitely have the upper hand in this as Tricky Zerg gets another pick. And they're just cleaning up this fight. That guy's gonna get picked off late, and that's real bad news as there's only 5% left to try and swap this. We're gonna have a Valkyrie try and get to the point fast enough, and Tracer does touch. But Gold Dominator actually gets the Mercy. Despite Valkyrie, his blade was enough. Quab ends up jumping into the pit on her own. And another body for the pit. Both Roadhogs end up in the well, and that will be the first point. Now we are going to go into the ruins. Last time we did see a dive composition with the sniper from the Swole Dinnesty, and on the side of the LA Mortals, a similar dive but with a Pharah. Despite the fact that the Swole Dinnesty has no direct counter to Pharah, Latin guy's been having a lot of trouble getting any frags. Despite having freedom in the air and a personal damage boost, the Pharah does not seem to be working out at the moment. Latin guy does opt to go to Tracer instead and try and get a pick on the healers and get damage on the tanks, try and get ultimate quick. And we do see Tricky Zerg about to initiate a Widow fight. Does get a headshot on Asmael, and he does go low. And Ethan picking up frags. The only one left on the point is a low health D.Va. And that is going to be a quick fight in favor of the Swole Dinnesty. The Immortals are going to try and break back into this. Asmael's already jumping his target. But he's going to get punished for it. He does have health, thanks to his healers, but if he had gotten picked there, that would have been incredibly bad for his team. Similar to previous games, the problem that LA Immortal seems to be having is target prioritization and when to dive. They are not diving together, as Asmael often goes on his own before fights. Choi actually finishes off the mech, and Gold Dominator is able to get Jachi. And that is going to be another fight in favor of the Swole Dinnesty. Despite the stall from a Primal Rage Winston, that is only feeding the Swole Dinnesty ultimate, as they have 5 ultimates. The only one they don't have is Gold Dominator because he already used it. Meanwhile, there's only 3 ultimates on the side of the LA Immortals. Oh, but Joshi gets an early pick on Akora. This could be huge. This could be their way in. Coalescence does come out from paint on table, but Swole Dinnesty throws out their Diva Mech, does not get any picks. As DPS Spanky does the same thing. Diva Mech is gone. And does look like the kills are coming in favor of the blue team. Quab is low, and Ethan is going to try his best to get over there and finish him off. He goes in as deep as he needs to finish off that Genji. With only 5% left. And a pick onto Gold Dominator, it may be possible for them to come in and take this point. Though it is not looking super likely, as picks start coming in for Ethan and Vox. Akora gets a pick off with her damage orbs. Quab uses Blade but is not able to get anything off of it. And that will be another clear of the point. It's all up to when LA Immortals gets finally taken off of the point, and that will be another win for Swole Dinnesty. And we are not going to get treated to a play of the game. But we can talk about what happened. We definitely saw that the Swole Dinnesty had a lot of communication and well use of their ultimate economy compared to the LA Immortals. LA Immortals continue to have the same problem as they did last time, where they their dive characters, the tanks, Asmael especially, would dive in without his team, and it almost when it didn't kill him, it brought him down to low health, which forced the healers to focus on him instead of the rest of the team before the team fight even began. That's not something you can really afford to do as a Winston, as the primary shield tank. And that is the primary reason why they were not able to ever flip the points. On the other hand, we did see very good DPSing from Tricky Zerg and Box. Choi even with kills of his own on the Lucio. And oh, so many well kills. I lost track, but I think there were at least 6 bodies in that well by the end of the game. Which is a little bit startling, because a lot of them were the same people. You would think, once you are in a position that you get booped, you don't want it to happen again. But Swole Dinnesty and LA Immortals, from both sides, found a way to get the same boop picks. Looks like we are deciding the next map. And we are going to go to King's Row, which is one of my favorite maps. And definitely a fan favorite from the Overwatch community as a whole. There's a lot of fun to be had. Hybrid is personally my favorite kind of map. And there's a lot of compositions you can run. You can still run dive. There's a lot of high ground, especially in the first point. Not so much the second and third. There is high ground, but it's not as important. So while you can run dive, you can also run death ball and triple tank. Triple tank is becoming very good at the very least the first point of King's Row. here we have King's Row. And here we have the Meridian, a movie theater with good flanking routes, a shrine for Mandata. May his robotic soul rest in peace. But here's where the first fight is going to take place. The attacking team does have a lot of flanking routes, but this choke point is one of the hardest to get through. You can try and push through here, or through the flanking route up here, but once you are past it, you have multiple options. You can go through the hotel to try and do a flanking maneuver. You can go straight to the point if you're in a death ball. You can use this statue as a kind of cover as you push, and you can also go through this high ground and try and fight from up here. DPS flankers like to opt to go through these tunnels and up through here. But it does look like we are going to run a death ball defense. Definitely something that I agree with. A Ryan Zarya, Junkrat Reaper. It's a lot of close mid-range damage. The one problem that they might run into here is if the enemy team has some kind of Pharah or some DPS like that, where they have no option of dealing with her. We're going to have DSP Spanky and Asmoel on the same tanks, but we're going to have a Mercy and a Lucio instead of Ana and Moira. It does look like DPS Spanky is just going to walk right onto this point. But Mercy, in a very bad position, is very low and gets finished off by a Fire Strike. And with Ethan on Swole Dinnesty at already 60% and DPS Spanky down, this is definitely going to be a bad sign and start for the red team. Quab is switching over to the Junkrat. He's going to try and just lob some damage from far away. Latin guy still opting to play the Widow, which has not worked so far, but any picks he does get would be great for the team. That Reinhardt barrier is giving him a lot of trouble, though. But it looks like while he has that angle covered, and I like this a lot, the rest of the LA Immortals are going to go around onto the high ground and flank from the other side. This gives a very good angle for Widowmaker to get some shots in while they're distracted. Tricky Zerg, half health, does get away. That should not have happened. As Asmoel is in a very bad spot, and again is just all alone. His teammates are still on this high ground. I don't know if that's a lack of communication or bad judgment, but you can't, as a tank, just walk off and die alone. At the very least, there's the reason if you do that as Tracer, but Zarya needs to be with her team. That's the only way that she can be played. The Swole Dinnesty is aware of a flank behind them, but have so many ults that they are ready to take on any defense. On the side of the LA Immortals, there are only 2 support ults and an upcoming Earth Shatter, but that's not a whole lot compared to the almost 6 ultimates on the side of Swole Dinnesty. It'd be interesting to see who Choi Nana boosts. And maybe Reaper when he gets ultimate, but it may also be Ethan if he lands a good Earth Shatter. He does need to heal up Box, as Box is very low. And this is when Latin guy has the best position. Graviton does come in. Attire does take out Lucio, but his barriers allow everyone else to stay alive. With trades on each side and paint on table, able to get DSP Spanky back into the fight. This is looking much better for the LA Immortals, especially with Valkyrie being able to heal and damage boost everybody nearby. Oh, but DPS Spanky does get Earth Shattered. And Ethan and Tricky Zerg take out both tanks. Although it actually doesn't look like Asmoel will get finished off, as Latin guy will finish Ethan. Oh, Reaper's ult will come in. Does not get anything, but Tricky Zerg does with a triple kill on his tire. This was looking so heavily favored for the LA Immortals, but still, they were not able to get the right targets at the right time and group up together. and Tricky Zerg was able to stop their push single-handedly.
30 seconds remaining.
LA Immortals has one more chance and only 2 ults to work with. But if you can get a good Earth Shatter past Ethan's shield, that might be enough. Asmel has Graviton as well. And there it is. The Earth Shatter does get baited and blocked, but it doesn't matter as the red team still gets picks against Swole Dinnesty. Ooh, a Nano Shatter does come through. And again, the LA Immortals drop their huge lead. But it does look like finally, with Tracer and Zarya, they will be able to take this point. It was looking very scary for a little bit though. It looked like they might not even be able to take the first point. But by the edge of their seat, they do make it. Asmo's going up ahead, gonna look for some picks, try and get some damage. This is an acceptable usage of Asmo pushing forward as he is playing Zarya and wants to get damage as much as he can. But with his shield on cooldown and a little bit misused there, he should be pushing the payload with the rest of his team. But they have caught up with him. Quab's holding onto a pulse bomb. Without any flank, it looks like his opportunity might be there. Does not finish off any healers. And he's trapped. As Tricky Zerg is not able to capitalize though, but does have a tire and is ready to go right into that Graviton and pick up 2 with a 3rd coming from Akora. Asmel gets slept and has no escape. A great stack of ultimates from the Swole Dinnesty. They have Nano Boost, Pulse Bomb, and Earth Shatter coming up at the same time, and a super late stagger onto Latin Guy is going to put the LA Immortals at a further disadvantage. There here comes LA Immortals on what could be their last fight. They do come in with Valkyrie and a Blade, and Latin Guy does get 1 healer. Is he able to get anything else? He is not, but DSP Spanky will pick up the slack and get kills of his own. A double Fire Strike kill on a tank and a DPS will be what they need to hopefully close out this the second phase. There's a Junkrat there. It does not seem that he notices. Tricky Zerg is gonna see if he can get any damage. Another trapped Quab, not able to finish it off, but Quab ends up landing on another mine. Does get rest for free though, but it did buy enough time for the Swole Dinnesty to try and contest one last time on this phase. A well-used barrier on Ethan is going to keep him alive. A Nano Boost is coming through, and the kills are starting to come in on the side of the Swole Dinnesty, as Nano Ryan is just going to do as much damage as he can, swinging his hammer like a madman, and the only one left is Paint on Table and Quab. As much as Quad butterflies around, it is overtime, and there's nothing Quab can do. Ooh, but a late shatter on DPS Spanky. That almost gave enough time for Jachi to push the payload, but unfortunately, Box does get a Graviton that stops Genji from pushing it the very last fraction of a meter.
Switching sides.
And look at how close it was. If the team had used, if LA Immortals had used their ultimates a little bit more wisely and saved more time disengaging, gripping up, they might have been able to close out that second phase. But now it is time for the Swole Dinnesty to try their hand at attack on King's Row. We do have some character choices coming in. It does look like Swole Dinnesty is going to run a quad tank composition, which is very good in the point A of King's Row. If you opt to go for just the straight path. Tanks can take damage, but it doesn't matter because Moira's healing them all at the same time, and Choi is going to make sure that they get there fast. On the other side, we have DSP Spanky and Asmal as Orisa and Winston, which, to be honest, is not a combo I think you see ever. It's definitely not standard. Winston is dive, and Orisa is the opposite of dive. She's very immobile, plays behind her barrier. The only way this could work is if the team communicates with Asmal as to who is low, which it should be Quab's job. If Quab can get damage, can try and get these tanks low, and then Asmal can finish them off, that would be optimal. The trap does come through already, but Swole Dinnesty is pushing, and they're actually going to catch Asmal out of position. But Asmal does get Choi. Doesn't matter though, as he does get picked on his own. And this is going to be an incredibly fast take of the first point. In about 30 seconds, they cleared the point. And in just a few more, they are going to take it. The tanks were just too beefy to take out, especially with a flanking strategy of a single Winston. That's just not enough damage output against 4 tanks and a Moira. Quab actually does take out Box, who is a little bit out of position, trying to get charged most likely. But now we're going to see how LA Immortals tries to adapt and hold this corner. DPS Spanky is going to switch onto a D.Va. And they're going to go with a more standard tank. This is going to be a pick style composition with a Roadhog and D.Va for damage. A Tricky Zerg does get Quab though, before the fight even starts. But when will this fight happen? As the tanks are just backing up. DPS Spanky does fly in. It does look like the fight is about to be on this corner, but it's so close to where the payload needs to be. DPS Spanky does get picked. But a visor does come out from Latin Guy. But he's not able to get anything as he gets whole hugged into the wall. A Shatter does kill Jachi. Finishes off Asmael and Mercy all alone in the Graviton. Quab's going to try and contest as much as she can, but with the Coalesce and 3 tanks, there's just nothing that she can do. And what a wipe from the side of Swole Dinnesty. While the previous games were somewhat even, there were some major mistakes that LA Immortals made, but they still could have made it in. Swole Dinnesty just ran this game. And with the cards at the end, it is clear which team overall did better. There's not much that can really be said, more so than what you saw. The Swole Dinnesty just did so much better, staying together, attacking together, using their ults together, making sure they were all healed up and ready to go. LA Immortals just doesn't seem to have that level of communication yet. Or perhaps game sense when it comes to composition. When they perhaps should have been running a classic dive, or a death ball or any kind of standard composition, they ran Orisa Winston, which there's a reason you do not see that comp in the Overwatch League or other high-level competitive games. Those tanks just have no synergy. They just don't work together. The DPS were doing their best, but with the LA Immortal tanks getting picked early, despite getting the primary healer, that's just not enough value to lose a tank. And from there, Swole Dinnesty just rolled on through the rest of Phase 2. Another problem that LA Immortals had is that they didn't really have a place due to late swaps and bad spawns. They didn't have a place to really hold and defend. What they should have done is held around the corner right after the payload goes through the archway. But instead, they ended up backing up, and they backed up to the stairs. And then they backed up again to where the payload needed to be, and then by that time, they were dead. They should have gotten together at a much earlier point so that even if they got wiped, they would have another chance to contest. But unfortunately, they had to wait too long and were not able to defend. Does look like we are getting gluey on the side of the Swole Dinnesty. And payload map will be coming up soon. Our options are Route 66, Dorado, and there's probably other payload maps, but those are the only two that people care about. I don't imagine anyone wants to go to Junkertown or Blizzard World, as that's much too new. We'll be in the competitive season next season, but people are still adjusting to that map. Depending on Dorado or Route 66, which is likely where we're going. There's a lot of team compositions you can run there, but I feel like LA Mortals is going to continue to try and make the dive work. They just need to be able to communicate together when they're attacking and who. On the other side, Swole Dinnesty seems to have more luck with more varied compositions. Dive and Deathball and Quad Tank has been very good. But on payload, I don't think triple quad tank is as useful, given that you are on the payload. You have to keep moving it along. So you want to be able to get the picks to clear it, to stop people from contesting. So you want more damage output and more verticality, especially on maps like Dorado, or well, Dorado, sure, but mostly at Route 66 to get any DPS off of the high ground. And we are going to go to Dorado.
Traveling to Dorado.
And we are going to start here in the vaults that Roadhog and Junkrat broke into. You can see that the gold is missing, and Roadhog's healing is strewn about. And here we have Hero 27. We all wondered where he was. You're looking at him. That does look like from the defense, or the attack rather, we're going to have a Risa Roadhog, which is interesting on a payload, but should have the defense necessary to try and break through. Typically, when you run a Risa with payload, it's with a pirate ship, Bastion composition, but there are many other things you can run it with. On the defense side, we have Orisa Hog as well with a soldier and a Junkrat. This is very good DPS for this composition on this map, as Gold Dominator will make sure that no one is flanking, and will be able to do major damage to the tanks and barriers, and try and get pickoffs on the squishies. Meanwhile, Tricky Zerg will be able to use the high ground to get a lot of damage off.
5, 4, 3.
It seems that LA Mortals is going to start with a double sniper composition, which is quite interesting. DPS Spanky sees nothing with his sonar arrow. Aquab is going to decide where to go from there. DPS Spanky is going to switch off to a Diva for a triple tank composition. So we will see how that goes. On the other side, Wolf Mia is already down, and Tricky Zerg does get pulled down by Orisa. That is exactly what you want to do with people on the high ground. Fox is going to try and get a pick. He sees the Zen, grabs him, and drops him into a trap. What a great combination. But he does get picked himself as he was out of position. And Joshi is going to get resurrected. Quab's mine is actually going to finish off Wolf Mio. And LA Immortals is actually having a lot of luck, or not luck, but a lot of success pushing through on Dorado. Box was going to be a little bit cheeky, but it does not look like he's going to be able to escape. That being said, he is actually escaping. Despite being halted and hooked, he made it out. Which probably shouldn't be allowed to happen, but he makes it out anyway. Quab's going to try and get a pick on the Zenyatta. Does bring him down to less health, I believe. 80 health. But he does get away to heal it back up. Ooh, and a quick snipe onto Tricky Zerg is going to put this fight in favor of LA Immortals. DPS Spanky is going to look onto the high ground. And despite the fact that a fresh D.Va mech was up there, Latin guy decided to jump down and fight a Moira, which he does get the pick on. A couple kills on the red, a couple kills on the blue. That's trades that Mortals will take, as the payload is getting much closer to this second point without being stopped. Ethan, though, is going to transcend to hold the point. And Box is going to push everyone off. They've decided that this is where the payload stops. Oh, and Box gets away again. Despite the fact that he keeps getting hooked, LA Immortals is not able to finish him off. And a little bit of a scrappy fight here, both Box and Latin guy charging up ultimates. And then another hook, but a barrier will protect him. And Paint on Table has transcended, which means that this is going to be the push that they've decided will take them to the second point. Box is going to push them away, though. But is going to put him... Oh, and Latin guy's just going to push Akora right into that wall, as they are finally getting the picks to take the second point. A late tire is going to come in. Even if it gets kills, the point is already there. Jachi's down, but he's going to get resurrected anyway. Or not, but it doesn't matter because the spawn's right there and they already got the second point. Swole Dinnesty has 4.5 minutes to try and defend this third phase. It's been looking a lot better for the LA Immortals. Box is gonna try and go up to Latin guy, bring him down, but he's gonna get hooked, and that's gonna take his health down. He does stay unpunished as Harissa does not notice. Ismail takes down Akora instead, however. Quab has used her visor, but she's gonna get chased down, or at least away by Wolf Mio, who has a Discord Orb and is very low. Oh, and a good pick onto Tricky Zerg. It's going to make it a lot harder to defend when you're losing players. But Swole Dinnesty is doing it regardless, despite the picks coming in from Quab, or pick rather. They have elected to ignore her and just kill the rest of her team. They're finally going to punish her for being on the high ground. But she's still alive, and Akora is down herself. That guy uses Whole Hog alone with no support and is taken out as expected. Should not have used that ultimate alone. And the tanks are just trickling in at this point. They need to stop and regroup. This is the problem that we've seen with Immortals before. They're not waiting for each other. They're just walking in, getting demeched, getting picked. This isn't something you can deal with. Quab does win the 1v1 with Tricky Zerg though, and that will help once the team is all here. As far as ultimates go, it's 4 on each side, but it looks like the ultimate economy advantage is going in favor of Swole Dinnesty. DPS Spanky does get a double kill. And if there's ever a time to push, it'll be that, especially after Akora's ult is taken down. DPS Spanky is going to take that hit. But with Valkyrie coming out, healing for everybody, this should be the end of this payload run. Although with Ethan and Gold Dominator coming out, they're going to stall, but Death Blossom will do nothing. And it's just going to be these final pickoffs that will decide when LA Mortals takes this point. A very good Fortify is going to make sure no one dies from that pulse bomb. And Latin guy is going to push everyone away. The stalls and staggers are still coming in. Going to eat up as much of the clock as they can to make their lives harder on the next round. But it definitely seems that LA Mortals should be able to close this out. The picks are still coming in. Too slow to actually finish it off, though. Perhaps there's no target priority or callouts, but Lucio's sitting on the payload. No one's hit Ethan. It does seem like the LA Mortals are ignoring him, as he's taken no damage, despite the fact that he has been on this payload for quite a while. Sitting at over 150 health, no one has done significant damage to him other than accidental crossfire. Barry's gonna come in, keep him alive even longer. And there's no way that LA Mortals is gonna take this point with these staggers and the fact that they're not calling out targets or communicating well enough to actually stop people from being on the payload. And amazingly, Gold Dominator has gotten EMP and is going to stop the LA Mortals despite how close they were. LA Mortals does have one more chance and 2 ultimates to use. But that fight should have been theirs by all means. With 15 seconds left, they're going to have to rush onto this payload. And a lot of this fight is going to be up to Quab to see if he can get a pulse bomb kill to try and make this fight in their favor. He's getting chased, though. Only has 30 health. Tricky Zerg actually gets paint on table, which is huge. Oh, and then a stick onto Gold Dominator. This is exactly what Quab needed to do, but Quab goes down to Winston. And both Diva Bombs are in the air. And it's not looking great for the LA Mortals. While they still have bodies on the point, the respawn advantage is so heavily in favor of the Swole Dinnesty. Especially if they refuse to finish off these last players. There's no reason that a baby diva should live that long. She even got her mech back. She only has 150 health. It takes so little effort to kill a baby diva that it's crazy. LA Mortals did not finish her off, despite the fact she was contesting the payload. But now she's contesting the payload with mech. A blade does come out from Latin guy. He's gonna try and finally finish off these kills. Lucio is on the payload again. How long are they gonna let Ethan sit around on this payload? And even though they have the number advantage, it is unclear if they will be able to finish this off, especially if Quab ends up sticking himself. Ban on table does bring him back. But the targeting, the callouts just don't seem to be there, as no one's actually getting taken down on side of Swole Dinnesty. Especially seeing as Ethan is untouched. If you look at his health, he's getting shot occasionally, but he's never down to critical health, and he even finishes off Latin guy. He is just surviving on this payload for so long because the prioritization is not there. Box does get Diva and a mech, but DPS Meki is brought back. But in turn, Pain on Table is taken down, and it looks like this is finally going to come to a close in favor of the Swole Dinnesty. Despite their 4-minute defense lead, while this fight does continue, it does not seem they will be able to cap this point. Overtime finally runs out. And while they were close to finishing it, the LA Mortals were not able to get to that last point. Only a couple meters to spare. The LA Mortals were so close. But alas, all Swole Dinnesty has to do is finish the map. It will be interesting to see what composition they run. It does look like they are opting for a dive composition with a Widow. Tricky Zerg has had a lot of success, especially in the Widow 1v1s. Akora is going to go as an Ana, which is interesting, given that there's not too many very good Nano Boost candidates, but it's always solid Nano Boosting a Winston. On the opposing side, we're going to have Diva Orisa. We got Orisa for the barriers, the Diva for the verticality and damage output. They are running double sniper again, though. It did not work very successfully on attack, as I believe they had to swap off fairly early. But they've decided that they're confident in Quab and Latin Guy's ability to get picks. A lot of this will come down to the 1v1 between Quab and Akora, or rather, Quab and Tricky Zerg. So it'll be really interesting to see how that 1v1 ensues and how it affects the team fights. Latin Guy is readying a sonar arrow, but it looks like we're going to have a secret flank as Lucio is going to speed boost the tanks behind the defending team and up the stairs and get a very fun dive attack onto the LA Mortals. Gold Dominator goes down, but Latin Guy goes down himself. And with that, the damage is already done. Going even, Swole Dinnesty will take. And with Asmul down, anyone who will decide to push the payload will have a decent time getting it a fair amount. Quab does find Tricky Zerg, though, but Ethan will push the payload. The fight is continuing over on the left, so he's able to push the payload past the choke point, but knows that it is time to maybe disengage, or not, as Wolfmeo is put to sleep, but not punished for his position. Joshi goes down, and looks like Quab is in Wolfmeo's sights. And this 1v1 has become a 2v1, and Quab is going to be forced to squander the site wall hacking in order to escape. While Wolfmeo goes after Latin Guy. Latin Guy's going to try and get some picks from behind, but does miss scatter. He is unable to get Tricky Zerg, finally does it, but in the meantime, picks have been coming in for the blue team. With just Hanzo to defend. This payload is going to make it through the first point with relative ease. Ult economy is looking so vastly in favor of Swole Dinnesty, with almost 6 ultimates ready to be used against about almost 3 on the side of LA Mortals. It does look like Box is going to try and get a ultimate kill. Looking like he might be looking for an angle to get a Diva Bomb. Opts to actually just fly up for a dive attack instead. But Line Guy Scatter will just rip Gold Dominator apart. Without any kind of graviton, Latin Guy will be forced to use his ult as a zoning tool instead of a tool for picking. But the LA Mortals do need to contest at some point. At some point they need to go down and stop the payload from moving. Wolfmeo does go up, but does not get punished, and he has ultimate, but he is not able to use it. He is not able to pull the trigger fast enough. It has gone even, though, but a shield will block that Diva Bomb. And DPS Spanky is getting closer to his. Tricky Zerg finds Jachi. And picks are suddenly looking very favored for the Swole Dinnesty. That being said, the LA Mortals seems to be pulling it back. But Ethan punches the drum. And as soon as it swapped in favor of LA Mortals, it swapped right back. And despite DPS's Diva Bomb onto Ethan, the payload does get taken to the second point, and a late stagger will come in for DPS Spanky. We see Latin Guy switching to the Bastion, kind of a Hail Mary to try and stop this push. with 4 minutes 15 seconds. It is essentially the same time that LA Mortals had to push. But with the snowball that's happening, we'll see if they're able to find any defensive footing. Box is down. It does look like the payload is finally going to come to a stop. Does look like Wolf Mayo is going to get pushed out. He might make it. He might survive. He uses an ultimate, which he should not have used, just to escape. That's very poor ultimate usage, and she's not going to get any value out of that in an actual team fight. In any case, both teams have all of their players, and they're going to start this team fight, but Latin guy seems to be uncontested up top. D.Va does fly towards him, and is doing a lot of damage, but he is able to heal it up and get ultimate. D.Va does go down. Can he get another? He is not able to get any more, but the damage had already been done. The tank had been taken down. Swole Dinnesty spread out. That's exactly what LA Mortals needed to stop this push. A very forward defense from Latin guy, though. As if he gets picked, that's a huge disadvantage, as he is LA Mortals' most DPS. And he does get picked, so that's going to be a great move for Swole Dinnesty. As they get Tracer as well, that is the entire team's DPS. Box is just going to slowly push this payload as Gold Dominator gets a double kill on both supports with a Pulse Bomb. The DPS Spanky does use D.Va Bomb, but most likely just see another mech as it does not get any picks. And sitting on 5 ults, this might be the time that Swole Dinnesty finishes off this map. Pulse Bomb does come out, but Quab does get taken down. Lucio in Zerg's trap. And a third pick onto Pain on table. I'm not sure there's anything that LA Mortals can do to stop this 4 ultimate push. The Tracer Quab does recall out of that. No value gotten from that tire, but the beat is dropped. And it does look like Swole Dinnesty is still finding these picks. Trickster gets a nice trap onto the ulting Winston, giving his team a lot of time to farm ults on that 1,000 to health behemoth. And he gets another pick on a Pain on table. And despite D.Va's jets, the payload does find its destination. Had it needed to go all the way to the very end of the track, that D.Va would have been able to contest, but unfortunately it was instead about 1.5 meters before the end. Wolf Mayo is going to leave with play of the game as he gets the final blows on a lot of these heroes. And again, we saw a long game definitely in favor of the Swole Dinnesty. As despite the fact that they made it to the end of their allotted track, they still had time if they needed to go further. Now with those scrims done, it does seem like that is the end of the matches today. And I will see you next time, whenever scrim that is.